What is a crypto-libertarian? What is their investment philosophy, and how do their investments affect you? Let's start with the libertarian philosophy. Libertarians advocate for minimal state intervention. It's easy for anyone to find a law that they don't like, and subsequently find a libertarian who agrees with them on that particular law being bad. But there are a lot of laws you might assume make total sense that make no sense to a libertarian. Crypto-libertarians devise digital currency investments which profit off minimal state intervention. One example is of an Ethereum developer who tried to get North Korea to use Ethereum to bypass global financial blockades. A large purchase of Ethereum by North Korea would have been good for this developer's own investments. In this case, the state intervened. It could be argued that Filecoin also tries to profit off minimal state intervention by looking the other way regarding the sale and distribution of child pornography on its platform.
I think folks would not be honest if they said there's not illegal activities happening with crypto. Now, as with human beings, the bad actors will use any technology, new technology, to achieve their bad habits or whatever it may be. And, you talked about the sanctions. I want to clarify, of course, they can use crypto to avoid sanctions, but you're not saying that crypto is the main catalyst there. But historically, before crypto, they could have tried to use other things to avoid sanctions, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but potentially the evolution of certain forms of crypto make avoiding the sanctions easier.
Sure.
All right, then other techniques.
There's a bad argument floating around crypto-libertarian circles. It's that if a problem existed before cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency makes the problem worse, then cryptocurrency hasn't affected the problem at all. For example, a crypto-libertarian might say that countries got around sanctions before cryptocurrency, therefore, they might as well be the ones to try to profit off the opportunity, since countries are going to get around them either way. Likewise, Filecoin storage providers that I've talked to try to brush off the distribution and sale of child pornography in the same way. They'll say that child pornography existed before Filecoin, and it will exist after Filecoin. Therefore, Filecoin can't possibly make the problem worse. This is a suspiciously stupid thing for them to think. They fail to recognize the seemingly simple facts that for the rest of society, more child porn creates more problems, or that more unsanctioned regimes create more problems too, or that more ransomware creates more problems too. Their fallacy is rooted in whataboutism, as in, but what about this? But what about that? It can be used for child porn too. They do it for everything across the industry, but this, but that. Crypto bros love each other's butts. And I find this fallacy to be intentionally deceitful, because crypto-libertarians make more money by charging premiums to criminals who use their platforms, and criminals are going to be drawn to their platforms because of the free features they use that are friendly to their ambitions. Crypto-libertarians rely on words like freedom and privacy to convince you to let them make these sales. But what do you actually gain by allowing them to make money this way? It seems like all that actually happens is that they profit off these horrible things while you and your family are put in greater danger. Do you really gain more freedom? Do you use your newfound privacy in any way to do anything you weren't doing before? The only recognizable gain in this system is made in the libertarian pocketbooks. Now let's look at some real examples of university crypto's social values.
And I had the great pleasure in December of 2015, spending a weekend with them, like watching that group. And, it's this weird kind of, he is like the messiah figure, and there's like 12 people sitting on the floor around him listening to his every bit of wisdom, and so it was inspirational and scary at the same time, because you see how much money is resting on this messiah structure. But
they're not a monolithic entity. Roger is not at all a single coin maximalist. See this link. Plenty of Bitcoiners advocate legalization of all drugs. I don't see legalizing possession of child pornography as more radical than heroin.
Dude, heroin is something you do that impacts yourself. Owning child porn impacts children and encourages continued exploitation of children. It's great to be a libertarian, but this is one place where I draw the line.
I can easily argue that doing heroin does impose risks on others, or simple possession of child porn does not.
Good point, but can you name any benefits that would come with legalizing the possession of child porn?
Establishing a general norm that a person's laptop is an extension of their mind and is inviolate can, in my opinion, have social benefits. I absolutely abhor CP, and I don't support legalizing it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but you don't think it imposes risks on others? What in the fuck did you mean by that?
I said could argue, not I think. Very huge difference.
Now you're flip-flopping.
These topics are just hard to discuss openly without riling up the soccer moms on Twitter.
University cryptocurrency investments have always been highly concentrated among people who look, think, and act the same way. Seemingly independent projects are actually connected in economic, technical, and social ways. This type of structure is prime for groupthink. Let's look at the case of Ethereum and Filecoin as an example. Ethereum and Filecoin have the same group of investors, even besides the universities. Take a look at Andreessen Horowitz's portfolio. Over half their investments prioritize Ethereum. One might refer to these investments as Web3. In this portfolio, Filecoin is actually just one leaf in a much more troublesome tree. This is backed up by the technical side. Ethereum plans to be integrated with Filecoin to create auctions for storage deals between users and storage providers. It also plans to create auctions for retrieving data from storage providers too. Both of these underlie the illicit market problem described in the last video. Before getting into the social part of it, let's look and see what Ethereum and Filecoin founders do when they're together.
Growing the decentralized storage ecosystem and integrating it with Ethereum at every layer of the decentralized technology stack. Joseph, do you want to walk us through what exactly that means?
Might take too much time to enumerate all the
do you want to spend the next several hours going into in-depth? Well, let's start with talking about the consensus product suite. Yeah.
Just kind of like loan out Filecoin to be able to use it as part of collateral. So that's one of the areas where Ethereum is perfect for this.
One thing that's really powerful that's going on here with the launch of Filecoin is that we have another heavyweight, another first-class layer one blockchain protocol being introduced into the world.
Socially, Filecoin and Ethereum have a shared history together because Filecoin was originally supposed to be built on top of Ethereum. Because of this history and the technical and economic overlap, they have the same social circles. We saw a Twitter conversation earlier from Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, where he makes some unusual comments regarding possession of child pornography. Is it any surprise that people with these kinds of values are working so closely together with Filecoin developers, given that Filecoin's key operations look the other way regarding the social harm in the sale and distribution of child pornography? These seemingly independent projects are actually very connected, and they are suffering from a groupthink regarding the risks that are appropriate to place on children. A person who furthers this point is another Ethereum co-founder named Gavin Wood. Before co-founding Ethereum, he wrote a blog post about sleeping with a little girl. Why don't we just read parts from the blog and see if it's good or bad?
And so that evening, in a bedroom full of childhood memories of my grandmother's house, we slowly undressed each other and went to bed. We cuddled for hours before she maneuvered herself onto me and, mischievous smile intact, began to push her tender into me. It hurt her, of course, but it was almost as though she craved the pain, as though she expected it and accepted it gladly for what it meant. Again and again, it continued through to dawn, with the barest of rests in between, one night of passion to make up for a lost lifetime. By next morning, she was tired and sore, but more content than she had ever known. She lost both her sadness and her strength during that time, the latter being dead weight with the evaporation of the former.
You've probably heard of Ethereum, but you've never heard this story, have you? I mean, it was pretty graphic. The story was so graphic that BuzzFeed News did a full investigation. Why did BuzzFeed News do the investigation? Well, because they're invested in by Andreessen Horowitz. Look at what Gavin said in the letter he posted in the BuzzFeed News article. It was basically just a letter that said if any news organizations report on this, he's going to sue them. He didn't sue BuzzFeed News, though. He also said this book is what inspired the post. I read this book after someone in a Filecoin video also mentioned it, proving again that they have similar social circles. This book is about cute little science things, cute little science puzzles. It's not a book where you challenge societal norms. The title, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman? Well, in the book, when that quote comes up, Mr. Feynman isn't joking. It's the context of the post in the greater Ethereum ecosystem that's troubling. Why does Gavin think anyone cares about his reputation? Does that photo say he's Gavin Wood or Ethereum co-founder? And if you think any of these other news organizations are going to report on this story and risk a lawsuit from university endowments, you are out of your mind.
We are to divest all feelings of romance, which would be well-deserved, even between individuals of the same age in another place or time, and treat the girl only as a simple automaton, incapable of understanding risk, embarking on or conducting relationship, or indeed making basic decisions for herself. Well, until a little while ago anyway. She's 16 now and perfectly capable of such things.
Okay. What do university endowments have to do with crypto-libertarianism, Ethereum and Filecoin, and this really bad form of groupthink? Perhaps because of years of student protests over fossil fuel investments, university endowments now keep their investments private. In this article, the Brown University Chief Investment Officer was asked specifically about their investments in cryptocurrencies. She said she wasn't able to talk about them. It's just unusual because there are multiple sources saying that Harvard, Yale, Brown, the University of Michigan, Stanford, Dartmouth, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, University of North Carolina, and other colleges have all invested in it. Earlier this year, Brown's chief investment officer took a seat on the board of Galaxy Digital. This firm is run by an early investor of Ethereum, and he's even the old college roommate of an Ethereum co-founder we saw earlier. Both of these Ethereum guys made huge cryptocurrency donations to Princeton in 2022. This lady in the bottom left graduated from Princeton the same year as the Ethereum co-founder. A lot of these particular schools have their own blockchain centers and courses, which is concerning because students are paying for courses to learn about this unbiased information, and they may not be aware of the university's conflict of interests based on their investments, or even donations. Given that university investments are mostly private, are there any crypto ones that we do know about? Yes. We know that Duke was an early investor in Coinbase during a school year that they started offering a blockchain course. This investment was kept a secret even from faculty until about 2020, when two insiders informed CoinDesk about it. Like the situation with Brown, Duke has yet to officially confirm this, but one of the insiders speculated that the money made here was reinvested into cryptocurrency. Unlike Brown, Duke's student newspaper did not report on this. We also know that these schools in the bottom left are huge investors in this crypto fund called Paradigm. Both of these companies, Coinbase and Paradigm, have the same co-founder. This centralization of university money may be another sign of crypto groupthink, or potentially something much worse, as this co-founder is both a graduate and legacy alumni of Duke. We also know that Yale has invested in Andreessen Horowitz. These are some of the biggest endowments investing in Web3. Since Paradigm is one of the few publicly recognized university investments, let's take a closer look at it. Aside from its many investments on Ethereum, Paradigm is also a big investor in private smart contracts. These are tiny programs where you can't see the code, you don't know who's using them, they operate in the cloud, and because they're replicated over a blockchain, they can't be taken down. Your first question should be, what? Why would someone want to use a program if they can't see the code or know how it works or who's using it? Well, with private smart contracts, there's always an inner circle of people who do know what they do and how to interact with them. To be an insider of the privileged information contained in a useful private smart contract, you would probably have to buy into that system with, some kind of cryptocurrency or money or something. Now, let's look at some of the other smart contract investments that people from Paradigm thought were a good idea, but other people did not. And then imagine these same investments implemented in a more private way under private smart contracts like they're also investing in. By doing this, we can learn about what University Crypto has built, why it didn't work the first time, and how it's going to be getting a second try under private smart contracts. The first example will be of Paradigm's first product release platform, Augur. Built on top of Ethereum, Augur creates unstoppable betting markets. When Augur was released, people started making bets on whether certain famous people were going to live until the end of the year. CoinDesk referred to these as assassination markets. They called these assassination markets because while a rich person could bet this much money that someone like Billie Eilish would live until the end of the year, what if they instead took the lower odds that she would die, and then hired a bounty hunter to kill her? They'd make about this much money in this hypothetical scenario. To crypto-libertarians, this makes perfect sense. Paradigm created an entire user interface for Augur called Veil. It says here that Veil was shut down partly because it wasn't regulated. Likely, concerns over assassination markets had something to do with its closure. Paradigm's private smart contract investments would allow them to relaunch Augur and perhaps Veil in a manner that couldn't be linked to their firm. Similar bounty markets to Augur could be set up among networks of trusted individuals, though not necessarily in the form of prediction markets. This entire thing is just using privacy to avoid state intervention and profiting off it in the process, using university money as seed capital. For other examples of private smart contracts, you might think of not just a private ransomware smart contract, but a private ransomware marketplace where buyers and sellers have reputations attached to them. You might think of private data markets, perhaps called dark Filecoin, where you wouldn't even know who was using it, where it was, or the weak points where you might be able to catch the people using it. Paradigm's DeFi program Uniswap that's currently being sued for fraud. With a private version of that, you could more easily launder criminal or sanctioned funds over the private system without law enforcement finding out. Basically, take any big, complicated smart contract system, make it criminal and impossible to see, and also used by pretty much rich people, and that's a private smart contract. People clearly thought that Paradigm's investments in Filecoin, Uniswap, and Veil made pretty bad things, but private versions of them would be even worse. Looking at all this again, it's not clear what a university needs from cryptocurrency or private smart contracts. This video series features the Filecoin founder a lot. If this is what he has to say about private smart contracts, what does that say about Paradigm?
Personally, I'm pretty worried about is just fully private smart contracts. The moment that you give general programmability and just zero knowledge computation, that just is a huge like door to lots of really bad things. Do you think that we should just like not build these things?
People will try to tell you that there are rules to how the world works. There are no rules. And just have fun with it. I'll see you out there.
This has been a video about University Crypto's social values. The next video will be about Filecoin block lists.